Hi everyone, here's what's bothering me today. Politicians are getting vaccines before frontline workers. And on top of that, there was the egregious issue that was in the news recently where hospital staff at the Stanford Medical Center found out that, they had been left off the list for early vaccines, even though they were frontline workers. So they staged a protest. And since then, Stanford Medical Center has apologized and revised the list, and rightly so. But this is still showing a very troubling trend where you have politicians, be they Nancy Pelosi, Mark Rubio, Benjamin Netanyahu, Justin Trudeau, you have politicians getting a vaccine before frontline workers, the very people who have kept society and capitalism running during this entire goddamn crisis. They talk of, we all must do our part and sacrifice and no, thank you frontline workers. You can thank them by providing a vaccine, by providing actual decent paychecks and hazard pay for all the work they've done this entire year. That's how you can thank them. But instead, it just becomes a political show of, oh, look, we're getting the vaccine to show people that it's perfectly safe and there's nothing to be afraid of. And to a certain extent, I get that. Like, I really get that logic of, there's people who are hesitant. So seeing their political leaders, take that sort of first step, show, oh, I'm not afraid. I sort of get that. But at the same time, in terms of who needs these vaccines most, it's those who are at risk. It's the elderly. It's the immune compromised. And of course, all those who are frontline workers, nurses, grocery workers, warehouse workers, meatpacking workers, farmers. Like, there are so many people who actually need this vaccine before politicians and before rich business execs because, I still got to travel and do business or some other crap like that. The frontline workers are the ones who need and deserve this most. And the fact that they had to protest in the case of Stanford Medical Center, that not only bothers me, but that pisses me off. And the fact that there's still so many politicians around the world who are, making a big show of them getting the vaccine first instead of, say, the elderly, hospital staff, grocery workers, nurses. Like, the list of who actually needs this is so long that other people who can afford to stay home or work remotely or be in very isolated circumstances, they are at the bottom of the list. The very people who allowed the billionaires to profit off of this crisis are the ones who deserve it first. And the fact that this hasn't been pushed in a media narrative and more people aren't pushing for it is definitely what's bothering me today. But I'm not just going to leave it on this note of how I'm mad. Here's how we can actually meaningfully address this and change this. In terms of a grassroots movement, what you can do is you can contact a lot of your local businesses and ask them about if they're going to help ensure that their workers get the vaccine as soon as possible. And if you start to put pressure on local small businesses, that can prompt a local business association to then push local municipal government and in turn provincial, state, federal governments to, oh, you know what, actually we're hearing a lot of chatter down here. You should really make sure that we get vaccines early on, especially for, frontline workers. That would be the grassroots approach. And I encourage everyone to take that up. Additionally, if you wanted to do something else, you might perhaps, maybe be able to start a challenge where a politician voluntarily gives up their vaccine spot to someone else who needs it. Here, I know a nurse or a grocery store worker, and give it to them instead, or to their grandmother even, because they're more at risk. Do something like that. Hell, make a hashtag out of it. Figure something out. I'm not good at this stuff. You could also, maybe burn the whole thing down. And if you are, say, in any position where you know where vaccines are being held and have access to lists of who's getting them, all I'm suggesting is that maybe you show some praxis and instead say, no, the CEO of this company isn't getting it, and we're going to take this package of 20 vaccine doses out to this clinic somewhere. There are many ways through which we can enact the change we want to see. And I want to see people take this news and be mad as hell about it, and then turn that into a force for good and some level of action, either calling on their politicians to do better or ensure that businesses actually put the vaccination of frontline workers and the elderly and the immunocompromised first. That is what we can do. And the fact that this isn't part of the media narrative and that frontline workers had to protest to get themselves put onto a list for vaccines is definitely what's bothering me today.